Hello, people. Um, this week I read The Outstretched Shadow, which is just sort of a fun fantasy book. Now, it is part of a trilogy, so gotta know that going in. We start with our main character, Kellen, mage, young. It's a 14-year-old mage in the city of Armathalia, the city of 1,000 bells. And he's not just a mage, he's the son of the Archmage. So, kind of a big deal. But, of course, mages can't just be content with life. This is what we love about mages. That if there's something to be poked or prodded or messed with, they poke it. Somebody's got to do something. It might as well be a mage. You know what? That sort of thing sometimes annoys me in books when you're like, you could just stay home and not deal with any of this. But this one sort of does it. I think because of its slow pace, it's not a slow book, but it doesn't like drop a quest on you within 5 seconds. It really is you just moving along with this kid in his life. There are, his father representing the town, very rigid in his thinking, very uncurious or not allowing, the son's curiosity to be fed. You just do these things and, I'll run your life for you, this kind of thing. But our boy resists against a lot of this. And I feel like, I don't know, you can get behind that in a character. And sort of, there's no real doom hanging over him. There's no monster chasing him. Nothing evil like this. It's just him in town in this really cloistered, albeit magnificent city. The city sort of is a third character, wherein it's built by mages, run by mages. They're the main power, politically as well as magically in the city. They have a hand in almost every aspect of life. They are the reason there's, I guess, running water or clean water, healthy food, healthy citizens. They're the reason the weather's the way it is. If you're a ship and you trade with them, your shipment will make sure to get there because of their magic. If you take their coins, they can't be whittled down in any way or shaved. They are the exact amount of gold they're supposed to be. And if you try, hack into them, the magic won't let you. Every aspect of this town run by these mages. So that's your tier system. Your people, I guess your merchants. These are the rich people, and then the mages, who a lot of them would be nobility, lineages that go back to the roots of the city 1,000+ years ago, etc. And because we don't have, let's say, a big evil, we sort of sink into their way of thinking while we're hanging out there. So, our Lysalon Tavadon, this is the father. We get his point of view that we see how stiff he is, that why he's that stiff. He wants the respect that comes with his office. He's a little bit sort of full of himself, but he was born, high-minded a little. So he would be your antagonist without being evil. He's not wicked. He's not a bad person. You could understand his reasonings. He wants tranquility completely in town, and anything that might upset it, be it a new instrument, new musics, new stories, he'll make sure they don't get into town. They're not allowed to be sold there. No one's allowed to look at it. Very much his goal. And this city aspect is our first, I would say, chunk of the book. There's about 3 or 4 chunks that make up our story. Of course, it doesn't take long for our boy Kellen to wander into a rando bookstore and find some magical books. Books about wild magic. And he goes right in. He knows it's not legal, But he also doesn't, he's not going to let that hold him. He doesn't think their laws are always necessary. So to him, it's not like he's murdering someone, even though it's against the law. It's just a book. And he's like, well, what harm could it do, really? The wild magic is sort of fun. It's not quite, what is it? The law, what is it? Of equivalent exchange. But it, you ask of it, and it asks of you, and if you agree, it goes with it. And later we learn, the scale of this can be upwards and including your whole life. But it will ask you, and you do agree. But at first he doesn't know this. And he's asking for small stuff, so it doesn't really matter. Like, help me find my keys, this kind of energy. But once you agree, it more or less is compelling you. So that you're drawn to a place. It doesn't really exactly tell you what to do there, but as you, being you, see a person in distress, you'll help them get a cat out of a tree. You'll help clear out a well. This kind of energy. It moves you to a spot, and then you being who you are, you'll do what you do. He's a good person, so he just does what a good guy would do. A second chunk of the book that we cut away to it, is Sevilla the Demon Queen and her son Zyperos. Great, fantastic demon names. They're full-on red skin. They have horns and snake-eyed demons. But they are they're bad. I'm pretty sure there's some incest going on here. They love to torture people. They feed on that despair. And after they've done tortured you, I think they'll pretty much kill you and then eat you. And then, in eating you, they get all your memories and consume your soul so that you can't be reborn. It's like full of bad stuff. Horrible. And it's nothing's graphic, but it is made clear. And sort of for this section, if it didn't have these sections in it, I would sort of say this is good for all ages. But with that section, I'd say, let's leave it for, what is it? What do you say? Young adults, YA, sort of your tween ages. That's what I'd leave it for. It gets a little, a bit much. Also, a side note, because in the Audible that I listened to, they kind of have Russian accents. No offense to Russian people, but it's just kind of funny to me. And it's not like heavy. It's not Wechter over here. It's very, it's hinted at, it's very subdued, but it feels more like, when like old school Hollywood movies would just have the evil villain be German or Russian. It gives me that vibe without, just harping on I hate Russians. It's not that serious. It's just funny. I gotta have some kind of accent. It's very funny. In dealing with these magic books, he starts to learn sort of more about the world, our boy Kellen. And what he learns is about what they call the city talismans. They give you a talisman to wear. And what is it? Once every moon turn, I love these. They have various terminology for time that they carry throughout the book, and that's one of them. They're very fun. But every so often, they make you switch them out. What they are is slowly sapping magical energy out of the citizens. That then is given to the mages, who are all around town. So rather than use their own, they'll just use the talisman juice, and that way they don't incur any mage debt. He didn't know this. He thought you just did magic. But all magic has some kind of debt. But these of Armathalia don't, rack up any debt because they're just leeching off everyone else's. He takes it real sideways. I'm sure if you asked half the town, they'd be okay with it. But the thing is, they aren't asking town. They're just taking it. And in taking it, they're maintaining their political power and real power. So you're like, it's a little bit dirty. Him seeing the other side, it starts to unravel more of the less than ideal aspects of the city. Then the book shows us more than it shows him at this stage, but we get a look at a girl. I forget her name. She's not like a main character. Maybe she shows up in the other parts. But the parents are rich, so they ask for the Archmage, which he takes sideways. But what she's doing is showing magical tendencies. Now, in this city, women aren't allowed to be mages. The way they say it is you can't. But by that they mean they're too emotional to, deal with magical spells, and they'll make a mess. Which I'm like, a bit chauvinist. But it's on purpose. It's chauvinist on purpose. So he goes in and, full-on Inception-like, wipes her memory of the magic and the joys and the draw that she had towards magic. He just shifts towards liking music. And so then when she wakes up, she'll forget she ever liked magic and think she always liked music. And the way he describes it, she'll go on to live a fulfilling life. She'll probably be a famous musician because her natural talents will make her better than average at music. And he's probably done a good thing for the good of the city, they say. And like, that's one is some commie pig stuff. Two, it's funny how that stuff always keeps you in charge. And three, it's like no one asked the girl, right? So it's you're not happy about it. But is it evil? It's not quite evil, especially since you showed me demons who are eating people. So I'm not too mad at them. But it does show sort of the level we're dealing with, how far they go to keep things the way they want them. Of course, at some point he gets caught with these books, and because he's headstrong, he just, he doesn't apologize for it. He got too much pride for that. Gets himself banished. Good and banished. Now, he gets banished, and he knows that by, I guess, the end of the day, they will, or the next morning, some effect to this, they will release a outlaw hunt. This is a certain number of animated stone dogs, hounds, that will chase you if you're within the bounds of what's owned by the city. It's just the city, and then I guess a certain amount of farmland they have. So you got to get out before they show up, because they'll chase you down and, of course, rip you to pieces. So he calls on the wild magic, and a unicorn shows up. Full on, what did they say? It's a pretty cool description of a unicorn. It's like a feline horse, if that makes sense. Not so much one and not so much the other. It's a mix in between. But it's clearly this impressive animal. It's Shaukin the unicorn. He stays with us the rest of the time. Got a bit of an attitude. He's kind of funny. But he's like, hop on and we got to get away. And him just trying to hang on to this unicorn feline horse thing that maybe jumps more than just gallops is just kind of hilarious. This turned, it's a harrowing experience just hanging on. This is not Shadowfax. It's just not a legendary mount in that regard. It's work. So then he's tired, but by the end they realize we're not going to get out in time. He's not actually fast enough. So they just find sort of a hill, a cave of types, and just wait for the hounds to come. Fight like mad. The fights are pretty intense, but they're not long. So you're not going to get bogged down in any battles. But there are a couple of fights in the story. Again, you won't get bogged down. Our boy just has a club. He has a club and a tiny dagger. But the dagger's not going to do anything to these hounds, so he just got to smash them. And it's just like a 6-hour battle or something that's like this. He wakes up in a woman's hut. She took him in, healed him without knowing who he is. And he says, I am Kellen Tavadon. And she recognizes the name. Boom! Plot twist, first one. It's his sister. His sister who he thought was dead. This becomes the second sort of chunk of our story. Him and the sister living out in the wild woods, him learning more about magic and sort of fae type creatures, your fairies, your centaurs, etc., etc. It's very, very fun. Again, there's still no driving force to the story. You're just along for this kid's ride. By this time, you like him enough. You think his dad kind of overreacted. I mean, he did try to have his kid killed. But then on the other hand, you can say he believes in the cause of this city, and maybe that's why. I don't know. At this point, I don't ever hate the dad in this story. I can't say evil dad. Misguided, maybe. His sister's name's Adalia. It's a great name. And she gives some of the backstory. Of course, he had known her, but Dad wiped his memory. I'm like, bro, Dad, you gotta stop. Dad wiped his memory. And the history is, I think she's like 10 or 11 years older than him. She's grown. Mom was not an aristocrat, so it made it odd that that Lysolon would marry her. So I get a hint that there was maybe some true love there. Just Lysolon just couldn't, I guess, deal, or got overwhelmed, or overconcerned with his legacy. Some part of something messed with him. But you do get a sense that, there was some love here that sort of went sideways. So one day Mom's like, gotta go. She YOLOs out, leaves the daughter. The daughter's trying to protect the brother. The dad's getting very, he's my legacy, possessive of the son. She gets some wild magic too, which turns out, once you accept these books, they follow you forever. So you can't destroy them, you can't get rid of them. They'll find a way to make their way back to you, no matter what you do. They disguise themselves, they look like other things to other people, but to you, they're always the books, which would be pretty cool. So she's left out, and she does like he does. I'm going to use the wild magic to save myself. Only she decides, I'm going to become a bird and just fly away. Easy enough. The cost, though, is have a family as this, eagle or falcon. So it takes her 2 years, and she has to have some baby eagles as kids. Then she, gets to come out of it. But she said it was fun enough. I guess flying around is always fun. And then I like that part's so casual. It's a cool element that you could shapeshift. It's a cool element to be an animal. These are very fun, mage life stories. That everyone has these tales they'll tell. And these are what a mage should do. This is how their life should be. So that when they're old and gray and they're wise wizards, where'd you learn all this stuff? Well, I learned it the hard way. One day at a time, one crazy adventure at a time. It's very, very much that beginning of the journey for a couple of wizards here. Very fun. But at some point, Lysolon has spies out. But also the demons have spies out. And, the demons trick his spies into telling him that the son's still alive. And I guess mess with his head a bit to make him very animate about getting them. So to get them, I can expand the borders of the town. They hear about this, and they're like, we got to leave because it won't be safe to stay. So they have to go off to Elfland. The sister doesn't want to go for reasons. Elfland is Centaur Shadeen. It's your classic elf city. Everything's really pretty. Everything's nice. All the people are gorgeous and glamorous and exotic. Everyone's pretty. They have a quasi like Japanese Vulcan sentiment to them. What's an example? They want to ask a direct question because it would be rude just to put that weight on someone. So they'll just casually drop hints, and then if you don't pick up on the hints, you're probably kind of being rude for not just telling me the things that I want to know. This kind of subterranean energy to them. They get there and they meet Jermayan, this is the reason she didn't want to go. He's an elf, and it's your classic, he loves her, but she's mortal, and he's going to live this 1,000 years, and she doesn't want to leave him alone, but he's like, I'd rather just be with you for 5 minutes and survive the alone. Your classic love story. But again, it's as unexpected almost as her being his brother. Partially, I think it's the current of the story. So because it's never a challenging, high-paced, or intense current, you relax along with it. And part of that relaxation is not really digging, sending your mind too far ahead to see around the corner. You're just going to take it as it comes. And as it comes is, boom, here's a love story. So you're just, oh, this is fun. Let's just keep going. Obviously, if the wild magic had a hand in this, they're here for a reason. The reason being a massive drought. Some evil magics making this elf city have just an endless drought until they die. Because the elves themselves in this book, which is a fun twist, don't have any magic. They don't use magic. They're just perfectionists and do things really well, but they don't really use magic. It's part of the cost they paid, and the benefit is they get to live so long, deep in their history. So to fix this, we're going to use wild magic, and we disperse the cost with the entire elf town. So the whole elf town shows up, and the sister makes a stone of sorts that needs to be taken to a place used to break the barrier that's stopping the rain. She has to stay because once the barrier breaks, it's just going to be, I don't know, like 5 years of rain all at once, and it needs to be controlled and tempered a little bit. So Kellen has to go. By this time, I think he's 17 or 18. He's grown. He's more grown now. So he's not like a child anymore. There's been some time here. They send the unicorn, Shalkin, Jermayan, and Kellen to go deliver this rock. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, I know Jermayan's is an elf warrior. They're very powerful, don't get me wrong. But maybe I'd send a couple more. I mean, it's 3 elf warriors too much to miss. Because if he doesn't get this rock to this spot, the show's over. Nothing's going to work. And they have some sense that, I'm like, if something's strong enough to put this spell up, it's probably demons. Demons hate elves. And if they did it, they're not going to want it undone. So if you start to undo it, they're going to try and stop you. And so all you sent was one dude for them. But I'm going to let it go. Along the way, we meet a damsel in distress. What's her name? Festakia, who looks like a demon. So Jermayan instantly wants to kill her because she's a demon to him. But Kellen doesn't, and we hear her story. Her story being, her mom was tricked by a demon. Literally the Prince of Shadow Mountain, that's what he called himself, which I think is the prince from our demonic interludes. So she's tricked and is now having a demon child. So she goes to the wild magic, and it says, okay, you can have a baby that looks normal and is a demon, or you can have a baby that looks like a demon and is normal. She picks the human inside, the demon outside. So that's what we have, Festakia. a half demon, half human girl, about 18, who, she has to live alone because if anyone sees her, they'll want to kill her, just like Jermaine did. It's the only time he really loses his cool in the story. They're really like mortal enemies, so. But Kellen won't allow it. Neither will the Unicorn. Unicorn trusts her. She joins the crew and helps lead them to where the crag, the cairn, what do they call it? The cairn. It's like a mountain peak. Got to go to the top. The more close to the top you get, the more evil is there. And Kellen has to, with no weapons, carry this stone to the top and set it. His, of course, battle is internal. You're tempted by somebody who looks just like you to. You could be this hero. You've turned in these elves and these outlaws. You could live in the city and be an archmage and have just a wonderful life. You don't have to live on the run like this. Of course, he doesn't choose it because he's a bro. A bro never leaves his friends alone. As he's doing this, like, the moment he gets close, there's just an unleashing of goblins. And all the goblins do is just want to eat. So if you shoot one of the goblins in the head, which are Festakia starts doing, she gets a bow and arrow and starts popping fools. You shoot one, the others stop and eat him on their way to you. This is the level of problem we're dealing with. And those two are just fighting tooth and nail until he finally finishes. And then once he finishes, they get spooked and leave. But after that, he's friends with... Jermaine becomes friends with this half-demon girl because those are some serious bonds you make. If both of you were in battle against, cannibal-level goblins, it's a pretty deep friendship. Success. For a while, the sister thinks everyone's dead, but they make it back. And everyone's happy there, but with some understanding, like, I may have made some enemies. Well, cut to the enemies. Demon Queen, all kind of mad. Her spell, she's not used to any kind of affront to her spells. She also knows, the elves now know they're making a move. The elves know the demons are making a move, and everything's going to be harder for her. And the son is mad that he didn't get his half-daughter back. For whatever reasons he wants, which probably aren't going to be any good. And there's a vow to kill Kellen and his family and all his friends and everyone he knows. Full on. That's how sort of the book ends. Feels like an epilogue, but it doesn't call it an epilogue. But we're clearly leaning into book 2. I haven't read it yet. I think I have it. Where do I have it? Right there? I think that's book 2. I haven't read it yet. I will. This is a very fun book. This is a very fun time. The whole thing. It's not difficult. Like I said, it could be for kids, except for some of the subject matter and some of the fighting gets a little more gruesome than I'd feel comfortable recommending to a child. But everything in this is very fun. The characters you remember really well. It sits with you very nicely. I'm happy I read it. I'd be happy to read it again. Maybe not religiously. I'm not reading this once a year. But if I read it again randomly 5 years from now, I can't say that I'd be too mad. Very fun. You're content. If you want a good fantasy fun, just dig in. And that's our book. Now it's time for our ads. These are my books. Do I have a fantasy book? Yes. Yes, I do. It's this one. This, The Merry Adventures of Morgan Summerstone. Is my book better than this? I'm not going to say better. I'm not going to say worse. That one, I think I wrote that one as sort of like this one, where I'm not trying to be too heavy with anything. So, you can check that out on Kindle Unlimited, and then read other books whilst you have that subscription. wherein you won't lose any money value. You can just buy the book and I'll get the money. You can just like and subscribe. You can just comment. You can just watch. It's whatever you want to do. We're good here. All right. I think that's it. I'm still getting used to editing on this computer. I went with a different video quality. Let's see if it's atrocious and maybe I don't like it and I won't do it again next week. We will find out together. Okay, people. I will talk to you all next week.